Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another week here on Rinkside with myself, Ryan Steves, and Emma Miskew. How's it going, Emma?
Hey, I am great. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Warmer weather's coming. Little League is in full swing, starting to put away the hockey skates and more winter, spring sports and head right into summer. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's always nice going or being outside when it's this warm instead of having
Hmm.
to go into a rink, and I know
Hmm.
that from
Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
So,
you all too well. And for those watching, I see you're in a hotel room, which once again means you're traveling. What city are you in these days?
yes, so doing a little venture with the team, Niagara on the Lake for an upcoming
Nice.
announcement about a wine sponsor. And then the social was something that we participated in as well, a TV segment promoting curling, which is always great for our sport,
Hmm.
and kind of showcasing what is curling because I think a lot of people don't really know the rules all the time.
Yeah,
And followed by the Joe Carter Golf Classic, which is always an
fun.
exciting event. AMJ, one of our title sponsor, our team title sponsor, also sponsors the Joe Carter Golf Tournament, raising money
Wow.
for the Children's Aid Foundation. So Rachel and I will be golfing in that. So
Sweet.
it's a fun little venture that we're on.
Yeah, and that's at the Glen Abbey, I think you were saying. So that's got to be fun to trade in the brooms for the golf clubs.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really fun. We are much better at curling than we are at golf, but we'll have a good time. It's
Fun.
always a great event and raises lots of money for such a great cause.
That's great. Cool. Well, enjoy the travels. It doesn't sound like much of an off season. It's just different busy things to keep your team out there, and great to see you helping out a cause like the Joe Carter Classic Golf Tourney. So good luck. Have fun there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this week we have a really fun episode, one that we've been trying to find the right guest. We're talking youth soccer today with a connection of yours, Emma, Thomas Muir. Maybe you can tell us a bit about Thomas and what he's coming on to talk to us about today.
Yeah, so this came about naturally when we started our podcast. One of our first episode, I think, was
Uh-huh.
about parent coaches.
Uh-huh.
Thomas coaches youth level girls soccer. He is
Uh-huh.
not a parent. He is an outside. He's a coach
Uh-huh.
that was brought on. And I was finding the stories that I was hearing and the way that he would talk about this position very interesting compared to a parent coach. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, if we were going to talk about parent coaches
Uh-huh.
for that whole episode, why not bring in a non-parent coach to discuss or just see like their side of how that role is and what sort of challenges they face in those roles. He grew up playing soccer. He is he studies it. He loves it. He studies it. He loves watching it. It was only fitting to get him on here to talk. And it was a sport that we hadn't talked a lot about
Yeah.
too. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to bring on Thomas to
Mhm.
discuss a little bit of everything when it comes to his soccer role.
Yeah, I think it's great. And one of the unique things that we'll hear from Thomas is he's part of this Ontario Player Development League, and I've just started hearing about it recently, and what that OPDL is. I think it'll be really interesting to talk and explain what this program is to maybe those of us who aren't as familiar with soccer, and how that stream of high performance development league, one that prioritizes training over gameplay, has really taken hold. And Thomas is right in the thick of it, as you said, as a non-parent coach. So it makes sense that he's enamored and in love with the sport. Because how else would you do it if you didn't have to be there following your son or daughter around? So I love this topic. I love what Thomas is doing, and can't wait to hear more about it. So without further ado, why don't we welcome in Thomas?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. Excited.
Yeah, it's great. Just as a tidbit here, you are the first soccer. We brought on a lot of people from various sports, and we try to give a pretty good slice of the youth sport experience. And so we've been dying to have somebody on to talk about the youth soccer landscape, and so we think you're the perfect fit. So maybe you can tell the thousands and thousands of people listening what exactly your role is with the West Ottawa Soccer Club, and who you're coaching this year.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that finally gave soccer its time. In Ottawa, it can get left
Yeah,
behind often from the rink rats. So no, it's good to be
yeah.
on. Yeah, so I'm a high performance coach at West Ottawa Soccer Club. So primarily that means we work with kids that are 13 to 17. And I work with one of our programs that's called the Ontario Provincial Development Program, which is an Ontario wide league where the top players from 13 to 17 compete with certain clubs that have what we call a national license to compete across all Ontario. And that follows sort of the Canada Soccer pathway for development for competition. And yeah, we compete. We compete from teams from all over, from Ottawa to Kingston to all the way through the GTA to London to Hamilton. So it's quite the heavy load. So and it takes us all over the province. Yeah, so kids that are kind of that have that desire to play professional or to play university level would come through. Predominantly, a lot of them will come through this league.
Okay, so would this be a tier, just for those maybe who aren't as familiar with soccer,
Mhm.
help us orient ourselves here. Would this be sort of a tier above or maybe a different bit of a model than the traditional club programs that most people see here in Ottawa?
So in Ottawa, those who would know youth soccer would have been familiar probably with the former OYSL system. So that's the only league that's provincial in nature and competition. So everywhere else in soccer, you compete regionally, and so in your local areas. So for example, in Ottawa, we have like the Eastern Ontario District Association. So that's more, that's the local clubs. That you just play, and you don't really travel outside of the Ottawa or the surrounding area.
Right.
And then there's different tiers to kind of the levels there. But this is the only league that's provincial in nature. So it'd kind of be the equivalent to your AAA hockey or
Mm.
your whatever the highest level is there, where you can travel all over different cities to compete, but not outside the boundaries of the province, but that's certainly all over the province. Yeah.
So what is your background, Thomas? Like, how did you get into this coaching? Obviously, you must have a soccer background. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer. Like many in Ottawa, I was a hockey player and a soccer player. But I quickly, having my mom's side of the family, I'm from England, and her side of the family really pushed me into soccer. I just was quickly better at soccer. So the decision was kind of made for me at about 13, 14 that hockey probably wasn't going to be the future for me, but soccer, I had a little bit better of a chance. So I was playing soccer at the top levels in Ottawa, local, and I had stints playing with the top programs, different things. It's the soccer landscape for local youth, competitive in Ontario and Ottawa, has shifted quite considerably since I was a kid. So the programs don't exactly line up, but I was always kind of playing in the top levels. I got into opportunities to kind of travel with teams to go try my luck at different countries. Went to France, went to Italy for kind of tournaments to train with teams. Then when I was about 17, I had the opportunity to actually get invited down to Brazil to train with a professional club there with their academy for about 4 months. So I was there, 17-year-old man, with the hopes of trying to maybe get picked up by an academy, trying to really make a name for myself in soccer. But I quickly realized that the pond is probably a lot smaller in Ottawa than it is in Brazil and Europe.
Yeah.
So after a great experience, learning a lot, I came back to Canada, and I just saw I had a lot of coaches talking to me from different universities, trying to get scholarships or trying to get into programs there. But really at the time, it's significantly different now. But at the time, there was really not much paths for a kid from Ottawa or a kid from Canada even to go make it professionally in soccer, to go to the highest level. You really had to stick out as a phenomenal player to get out. So I ended up just saying, you know what, I want to go for a good program, play at a Canadian university at a good level. Ended up going to accepting a spot at Concordia University in Montreal. I had my uncle had previously played football there, so I was familiar with the school a bit. The family liked it. It's close to home. So I went into that, but then, so I loved it. Had the best kind of 4 years ever my playing career. Met some
Nice.
great guys that I'm still friends with to this day, that I still talk to every day. But after 4 years and finishing at about 22 years old, I felt pretty unfulfilled in soccer. So I said, well, that's the highest level I'm going to play now. At the time, there's not really any Toronto FC wasn't calling me, or Montreal Impact. So I was like, you know what? One of the a guy that used to be my coach here he said there's this new club, West Ottawa, we started up. And he said, he's like, why don't you come out and play for our men's premier team? You'll play for free. Just come and do your thing for us and help us out, get established. So men's premier is just sort of the kind of the top competitive. There's women's and men's premier in Ottawa. And it's the top level for kind of competitive players, university players, maybe semi-pro players or pro players that are out of contract will come and play in this league. And then he just said, you know what, you should try giving coaching a go. He said, it's something I think you'd be good at. And I think something we could use with this new club. So it was always something I thought about doing. So I said, you know what, I'll give it a try. And then I just absolutely loved it. Got hooked on it. It was just the most rewarding kind of thing. It allowed me to kind of stay in the game, passion. And as I continued to do it, I started to get my different badges and license to coach at the higher levels. And the club that I was fortunate enough, West Ottawa I'm still with today, was fortunate enough to pay for a lot of my licenses if I kept coaching with them. So I got to kind of climb the ranks a little bit. And I think I just quickly found out I was probably a way better coach than I ever was an actual player. So I've just kind of stuck with it. And it's something hopefully I'll be doing for the next several decades.
That's great. You hear a lot of former players like yourself who talk about the idea of being a better coach than player. I've said on this show before, I think most coaches would say they wish they could have coached before they played, give them a whole different perspective on the game. I always love asking this question to former players who coach. What was the hardest transition? What was the hardest part about transitioning your voice or thinking from a player to a coach?
Yeah, it's a great question. As a coach, it's you really have to think about the way you're communicating information a lot. When you're a player, you're sort of just practicing and training all the time, and a lot of things, especially actions, become sort of just muscle memory. And you're just kind of doing it, correcting technique, or you're playing the game, so you just learn stuff. But then when you're teaching someone to do it, you have to think about, what's the mechanics of the movement? Why are you doing this? What are you looking for? What are you trying to assess and analyze when it's not going right, or you need to get better? You kind of have to really look at breaking it down a lot more. I remember when I first started to coach, especially with youth, I would maybe deliver my instructions the same way I was receiving instructions from university level coaches or former pros and stuff. And it's far, far too complicated, right? The kids or at the level just won't get that. They need the basics. So learning how to break things down and learning how to communicate the intent and why we're doing something, or why this is going to change your action, or why this is going to be beneficial, was really something I had to narrow down. I think a lot of the times too, when as a player, I think I realized I didn't even really question some instructions I was getting. I would just, okay, coach told me to do it, I'm doing it. And I didn't even know if it was better or not. I was just happy that the coach was off my back. And I think now kids, they ask you everything. They want to know, why are they doing this? What's the point? This is how they see it. Why is your way better than theirs? It's a lot more of that sort of back and forth, as opposed to kind of do this. Oh, okay, trust you, and then do it type of thing.
Great explanation. And I've coached a little bit just with kids in curling. And when you say it like that, it's you can't just, it's not just do this. You have to be able to explain, one, why it's helpful, and two, those motor skills. So that's really interesting.
Especially Emma, on that point, you've done something your whole life, Thomas. You've got movement patterns. You've got, simple things that you take for granted. You don't think about how you do it. I remember when I started to coach 7-year-olds, trying to explain how to do a tight turn, for instance, on skates. I don't know how to explain that. I can do it. I always find that the interesting part. And I was like yourself. I coached university level players and then went to coach 5-year-olds. It's a very difficult transition. So
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things when you're coach soccer specifically, there's a lot of players on the field, and you're mostly not on the ball a lot. Most of the time, when you're in a 90-minute soccer game, you're probably, in total, if you were played every minute, you're really only on the ball for about a minute and a half in total, if you're lucky. And that's a long day. You're not like a Messi, who dribbles all the time, but if you're by yourself. So also trying to get, exactly. My old coaches would hear that and be like, yeah, that's not him. But trying to convince them too, but I understand, here's movements or actions you need to do off the ball. And this is why they're
Right.
important, to create space, to drop back, to, take away angles, to force the opponent that way, or to create, drag a defender with you to create a gap for your teammate to run through, or attacker to go. A lot of that stuff, it's a lot of unselfish movement. So when you have it's hot out and you're coaching a 12-year-old kid, it's heat, and then you want them to make a 45, 50-yard sprint again, but they don't even get the ball. And they think, oh, it's a failure. Like, oh, why is this coach just makes you run? But trying to get them to understand sort of those bigger pictures, like, this is why you're doing it. These are the tactics. This is why you need to drop back and run and all that stuff. That can be difficult. Some players just hate it. But, I used to when I was a kid, I just ran. Coach was like, run, and I just wanted to be seen running so that I didn't get picked on, But yeah, convincing them, they want to understand why. What are we doing? How come? What's the point? I'm tired. Why do I have to do that? I have to really, it's almost much more like a conversation convincing than direction,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So one of the reasons that when I chatted with you, we wanted to get you on, was we had chatted about parent coaching early on in our first episode of the podcast. And that's an interesting angle and a different approach for a lot of parents who have to coach their children, what sort of things they have to focus on and make sure that they're being impartial and all that. So we've had a long discussion about that. You played, if I'm not wrong, with a teammate who was your coach for a bit of your childhood, did you not?
I played, say that again. So I played with a teammate.
Like you had one of your teammates was also
Yeah.
your coach.
I'm not sure if I've had a teammate that was a coach. I've had
their parents, sorry.
their parents. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Of course. Oh yeah.
That would have been
In
unique.
almost every sport. Yeah.
Yes,
But
yeah.
I had one of my good friends, still good friends to the day, and he was a neighbor. His dad was a pretty intense coach and was my coach for many years. Yeah.
Yeah. So what has your experience been like being a coach that you're not a parent of any of the players on the team? And how do you find that? And how do you find the parents in those situations, like in doing this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm lucky enough not to be a parent of any of the kids, and at the higher levels, like I don't know how parents even do it. If you're a high level, kind of high performance coach, and then one of your kids is on the team, like I imagine, especially teenagers.
Full disclosure, Thomas, you're talking to one.
Yeah.
But we can talk
there you
about
go.
it.
But I would just imagine,
You're right.
trying to get a teenager, a kid to kind of buy into what you're saying, and not just kind of have that natural sort of rebellious attitude that kids have with their parents as teenagers. Trying to get them to listen, buy in. I think being a non-parent coach, they really look at you as impartial and look at you more as someone who's trying to help them get to this next step, or is kind of holding some sort of opportunity in their hands that they're trying to give to you. Whereas I think parents, it's a little bit harder. It's like, that's just my dad. He always says this. My mom's always on me like that. So that'd be very difficult for me. But at the level I'm at, you wouldn't believe, I guess, Ryan, you see this coaching as well, the level of politics that come out of sports with these kids now, mostly, and I'd say 99% of it is caused by parent players on the group. But those parents, it would be very hard for me to be seen as impartial a lot of the times for stuff, making tough decisions, presenting, at this level, there's players we put up to, go for Team Ontario selections, for Team Canada selections. If pro teams Impact, MLS want to come in, we have to make those tough decisions. And I would be very, very concerned if I had to say, oh, my son or my daughter, I think is the top player on the team, and Team Ontario's here and they want to see my player recommendations, and I send them her, then I would have quite a few parents knocking on my door being, wow, you just chose your kid type of thing. So that would be very difficult. Very, very difficult. And it's not something I think it's something it's important to eventually you kind of want to break away from your parent when you're learning. And it's natural. I think we see that with kids all the time in life. They just kind of start to rebel. They start to kind of want to get a bit of space from mom and dad. So on the soccer pitch or any hockey rink or stuff, that's a tough environment, right? It's a lot of demanding. It's a lot of time away from friends, and it's a lot of time away from things you might want to do that's easier. So to be able to not have to go home with the kid after makes my job a lot easier. That's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, Thomas, they're very quiet car rides
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a parent coach for sure. Yeah, you've identified so many things. We could talk for hours about this, Thomas. The interactions with parents are really interesting. I think most people assume that it's all roses when you have a non-parent, that so many of the political, quote unquote, political or bias issues go away with a non-parent. I don't always find that that's the case. I've been around and seen a lot of teams with many of those issues that linger regardless of whether it's a parent or a non-parent. What's your experience in parent feedback? One of the things that I get a lot of as a parent is a lot of requests for meetings, for feedback. Maybe because there's a closeness, there's an intimacy here between families and they're more familiar with a parent coach. Do you still get approached a lot as a non-parent coach for regular feedback? Is that something you offer, or are you more hands-off with parents?
No, it's listen, if I could be hands off with parents, that would be fantastic. But it's absolutely impossible. It's impossible to not be constantly engaging with them. At the end of the day, in North America, we're a pay to play system. So parents are a big part of kids' development. So you can't really cut them out. It's got to be conversations, communication between you as the coach, you, the player, and the parent, and you all have to kind of be on the same page, or it's just going to cause, by experience, it causes problems down the line, right? Parents often, what's difficult, and I think what's different than in sport, in say, in Europe, where a lot of these, if you're at the high level, you're playing for a professional academy team, even as a young kid starting at, even you under 5, you're already with the academy. So you're not paying to have the kid there, or if you are, it's like very small fees. But having the cost of how expensive the sport gets, especially in Canada, we kind of have this reverse order where the higher level you go, the more expensive it gets for families. But that expense also creates, and understandably, quite a bit of entitlement from parents to want to have your time, want to have your attention, want to talk about their kid, want to know why their kid's not getting better, or why they don't think they're getting better, or why they're not getting more play time, why didn't they get chosen for this team, all those sort of things. So it gets quite difficult, but I try to be as upfront as I can with parents and be honest, because at the end of the day, my job isn't to, I'm not there to, as much as I want to, I'm not there to just make your kid win medals and pat themselves on the back, say I'm the best, 13-year-old team in the city or the province. My job is to make your kid better and make sure they're in the environment with the opportunities that will allow them to thrive. Sometimes that's a difficult decision when I said, listen, that maybe they're struggling, they're not getting on the ball enough, they're not impacting play enough, and that's going to be detrimental to their development right now. So they might have to go to the second team right now, and that's just getting on the ball. Maybe, and that's tough because maybe 2 years ago they were one of the best teams, but players grow, you get stronger, levels change. Maybe they grow later, maybe their bodies have changed, and they're not quite the fast player they once were. So these conversations are always hard because as good intentions parents have, what they often do have good intentions, egos are always on the line. Like it's crazy, and I always have to remind them. Like when I do a parent meeting, I'll have one of the first things I say, and parents laugh every time I say it. And I go, listen, guys, your quality of your kid, how your kid does this season, is not a representative of you as a parent, of how good you are as a parent, how committed you are. Has
your
nothing.
failings.
Exactly.
Yeah, the life you didn't get to lead.
Yeah. And they all laugh. They go, oh, yeah, that's funny. I'm not like that parent. But it really is, right? Because it's like you can see the emotion, the anger, except for their kids is on the bench, or their kids struggling, they get pulled off, or their kids not getting the top recognition they want. That stuff's very difficult. And then, but it really, it's a unique thing, and it's funny because I've seen coaches, especially in soccer, we get a ton of coaches that come over from Europe to come take up these club head coaches or technical directors or these top games. Now that we have the Canadian Premier League and the Northern Super League starting, there's an influx of European coaches coming over to Canada right now. They're not used to parents at all. Like they're just not used to them. And they think this is my way. It's like, just wait, because you'll be answering emails till midnight every night. This is your way, right? So unfortunately, it doesn't go away with not having a kid there. It does allow me at least a bit of space, though. I can turn off, and that I can, the best I can. I don't have to worry about giving a bias to my own kid. And I think that allows a coach a lot more freedom to be able to be honest, because
Yeah.
again, the hardest about coaching is just disappointing kids. Like, it's the worst. I hate it. I hate having to move a kid down teams. I hate having to, release a player from a program. I hate having to, reduce minutes from a game or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's just disappointing kids. But your job is really to make sure everyone, regardless of what level or opportunities they need, are given the opportunities that fit them individually to
Right.
develop, but also at the same time, you got to contribute to the team. There's the team goals and the individual goals. So trying to balance that is difficult for sure.
We have talked about that
Yeah.
too, how a player can actually develop a lot more playing on a team where they'll get more play time, or they'll be on the ball more, like you said. And even if it's a level below or a team below what they wanted, they're actually going to become a better player, a better athlete with that experience, and could potentially turn that around if they have the right mindset, could potentially turn that around and get back on the team that they want. But mentally, you think it's a failure.
Yeah.
But what we've seen, and all of us, we've talked about this a lot, is it actually can, with the right mentality, can create better players and better athletes and humans all around. So it's something that needs, like, that mindset has to just change to just like, oh, this is something I'm experience and I'm gonna get myself back.
Yeah. And I know you have more experience in this than anyone, Emma. But like the top players I've had that have come through me, and they went to NCAA schools, or they're on the national teams or pro teams now. When they come back and they check in and they'll talk to my players, we always try to get them to come and talk and sit with the athletes and talk to them. They all say, "Listen, I failed way more than I've ever succeeded, like by far." I said, but if I dwelled or if I hid from those failures, then I got nowhere. It's like, you have to learn it. And I always say to them, and it's corny and it's cliche, the kids will laugh, I say it, but I'm always like, there's no losses. There's just lessons. There's always lessons. That's it. No losses. There's lessons. Like, learn from it. Why didn't it work? What are you going to do different next time? Did that work? Let's try again. That sort of thing. But, moving to, like, you never get better at anything if you're not involved in it. So I always tell parents, I'm like, listen, your kid is the 18th, maybe 19th player. If you really make a stink or whatever, we can force this player to be on this team, but they're never going to be in the play. They'll be chasing the ball all the time. They won't really enjoy it. They'll be kind of in the periphery, and they're not going to get better doing that. No one ever does, right? So you need them. You don't get better by sitting on the bench. So you need to be at your level and just take it right now. It's your time to learn, right? At the end of the day, who cares about winning at between 13 to 17? Like, who cares? It's if you're playing top level, if you're in the Olympics, if you're in wherever, you're not going to be like, well, I was the best in the city at 13, so I've got some medals at home to show you, right? It doesn't matter. So trying to have those hard lessons, or just taking that mature response. And listen, when I was 13, I would not have had that. I would have been like, I want to be on the best team with the best players, and I can brag. But us as coaches, we have to kind of take that, and parents don't understand that as well, right? They want to also tell their coworkers or their family, like, my son is on the top team. He made AAA this year, going everywhere. They want to be able to say that as well.
Yeah. When I played soccer, I was on the second best kind of div in the soccer club that I played for. And I got called up a couple times, and that was very humbling because I was pretty good on the team that I was on, and I had made a lot of good plays. I was part of a lot of good plays, and then get called up, and I felt lost. I was like, you know what? I enjoyed a lot more at the div that I'm playing at, and well, that's kind of where soccer ended for me. And I took up curling. That's what I chose, curling. I had always been curling.
Good choice.
But
Yeah.
I think I made the right choice.
Canadians, right choice for sure.
Tom, so one of the things that I look at, I always try to find these parallels, and I'm fascinated with this OPDL format and the way it works. But one thing with soccer that's always struck me, and I'd love your take on this as a coach, is these residency requirements or lack of, I suppose, because this is one thing that hockey's grappling with, and is the removal of barriers and jurisdictions effectively. Toronto's introduced it. We're all watching to see how it goes. Formal limitations, that is. There's always been this idea that they don't really exist, but they do. So how does that change how a coach approaches the season? A level of accountability, program delivery, the quality of coach you are. You say you focus on development and not wins, but it gets a little tiring losing all the time if you're saying, well, listen, mom and dad, I'm actually developing your son or daughter really well. You can't tell in how many wins we have.
Yeah.
I believe that as a coach. I know you do, Emma would, but some people aren't as patient. So Do you see this? Do you see this? Lack of attention, lack of focus to stick with the program, or do you see athletes running around to shopping around to different clubs?
Yeah, I know it's a great question. So the with the OPDL program, right? They don't track any scores at the first year,
Uh-huh.
13. So there's no standings or anything. But at 14, it does start. Now,
Mm.
saying that, at 13, every club, parent, kid knows how many wins they
Yeah.
have, the scores like that. But it's more just, trying to help that first year, like getting you're in the
Yeah.
top level. Now, being an club from Ottawa, we're always at a disadvantage against when you go into the GTA. There's a massive pool, and sometimes I have my team come up to the field, and they'll be like, I'll be like, "Is that a assistant coach or am I playing that kid?" Like, yeah, you can't really tell because they'll be 6, 7 inches bigger, 30, 40 pounds heavier than some of my players. And that, honestly, the discrepancy between 13 and 15, you see it with hockey as well. It's
Yeah.
just that big. Like, you
Yeah.
can see it. So I set objectives for like what is the point of this season? What are we going to try and go? What do I want them to do,
Mm-hmm.
each player individually? But what I want the team to learn. And then it's like building blocks to get them to when when it becomes time to really win, when it's like, now I need to win, I want to get into university nationals, I want to make the CPL set pro team, and we need to win games.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have all these tools in your belt where you can adapt to different tactics and coaching styles and all that stuff. But
Right.
my job is to fill their tool belt as much as I can. Like, if I
I
just
love that.
I can do tactics right now, and I honestly could be like, well, we're going to go against this Toronto team. They're really big. So we're going to sit 10 players behind the ball all game at top of the 18, and we'll try to hit it long and catch players on a counterattack and get one goal in and then sit back. Like, that's, this is stuff that you see
Yeah.
professional clubs do.
Mm-hmm.
At 13, one, they don't have the discipline to do it. Two,
Yeah.
it's not fun. They're not. What are they going to learn from that, right?
Yeah.
Play the most boring thing for stressful thing for 90 minutes just
Yeah.
to get this win. Like, that's not fun. So, and then I failed because I haven't really prepped them. They need to learn how to
Yeah.
break down this opponent, or what tools do you use if you're against someone who's bigger and faster than you? Like, what tools do you
Mm-hmm.
use? But winning is still a key part of it. So when I say about winning too, I do want to win because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
competitive guy myself. My coaches I work with are all competitive. Everyone who plays at the level are at that level because they're competitive. So we all want to win on the score sheet. But I always tell them, like, there's the winning on the score sheet is just the last thing we win at. It's the very last thing. Like, there's so much more winning you need to as an individual, as a group. So in soccer, I'm like, I need you to win your 50-50 battles. I need to win. I need you to win your races, your individual races, your aerial tackles, your transition moments from defense to attack, attack to defense, your shifting, your communication on the field. These are all these little battles you're doing all the time, and those are
I
more
love that.
important because especially at this level, this is what I find parents. They're 13, they're 12, whatever age, they make so many mistakes all the time that if you just determine how good you're doing as a team based on their score,
Mm-hmm.
it could be completely it could give you a different picture, like a wrong picture, because I can have a team who wins everything. They're 50-50s, they're tackling hard, they're sprinting, they have way more shots on ball, they have all this ball possession, but ref calls a penalty at the end of the game, or a big kid who's just 4 or 5 inches taller can run a pitch past everyone and score a couple of goals, and you can say, well, we lost, we were the worst team, but it's not actually the case. So it's trying to remember that this isn't professional. They're learning, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
still need to build those blocks. We still need to get them to break down the different areas that we want them to succeed at. What are our team objectives? What are the individual objectives I want for each player? What are the individual objectives we have as a team, or in certain phases of the play on the field? All those sort of things. That is more important. And usually, if you win on those, it does end up more times than not that you win on the score sheet. But
Mm-hmm.
with kids, as you know, it's not always the case. It doesn't go the way you want it to.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
great.
very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One other question that's like a little unrelated, but very much related at the same time. How many of your athletes play a second sport, and how many are 100% all in on soccer? Because we've talked about this before, about having other sports can sometimes make a better athlete overall, having something else. But the time commitment to play these competitive
Mm-hmm.
leagues is
Mm-hmm.
quite big. It's a big
Yeah.
time commitment. So what do you see from your athletes that you work with?
Yeah, no, it's a great debate too. It's something that we in the soccer community as well, especially OPDL, like Some people are advocates of you just play this sport and you can do other things, but really focus on it. I'm a huge advocate of multi-sports athletes. Like I think it's super important for their development. I'm as a coach too. A lot of when I get some players come up and they want to play at the highest level of soccer, but their parents, one of the biggest concerns I get is, but he or she also really likes hockey or basketball or volleyball. And I heard that if they play this level, they're only allowed to play soccer. And I always say, I said, no, definitely not. For me, I consider like there's your primary season for each sport. And then that, if it's spring, it's sort of spring to fall, that's soccer time. And then your focus should be on soccer, and then maybe other sports take a back seat. But then I'm going to be very accommodating for hockey or basketball because that's a winter sport, no problem. Because for their development, one, it's important, like muscle development, movement, right? We see so many injuries. I've got my players on the field about 5 times a week in the summer. So you can see, like, I'm seeing 12, 13-year-olds that are getting like, tendonitis and ligament problems and stuff that they should not really be getting because of the repetition all the time. But the other thing is just burnout. Like if I knew, I would have absolutely, like, I love soccer as a kid, I was obsessed. But if I was on the soccer pitch and I could only play soccer, I would have quit well before, right? Because I would have been just done with it, right? So having to be able to express different hobbies and passions, not even just having to do another sport, but allowing them to go and explore other interests they have is really key to keeping athletes involved. I'm not sure, like in soccer, one of I think the biggest problems we're dealing with is on the women's side is just the rate at which we see dropout. By I think the age of like 14, 15, we're already seeing like substantial, like 3 times the amount of dropout than we do on the boys' side. And that's different, right? There's different kind of needs and interests between an adolescent male and a female. And how do we keep them engaged? We can't just, overburden them with soccer all the time where they have no other areas to express themselves or learn. So having multi-sport really helps. Now, even at my club we coach, I think we're one of the probably not to, obviously I got to boost my own club a little bit, but we're very focused on player development. It's like very important to us where we're a little bit more focused on providing the complete athlete to go see them off in the future than necessarily winning accolades in the immediate. But even in my club, some coaches don't want their athletes. They say no school soccer, or no, you can't play any of the school sports, just this, or off seasons, or no, you can't miss any training. For me, I think we can't be like, again, they're kids, they're not athletes. We have to be a lot more flexible, or we're going to lose players to things, or we're going to lose very top athletes are just going to drop out. And we have to find a way to keep the passion, because at the end of the day, they're sports. Like I tell the kids, I'm like, when they come, I tell them, go try new things. Like go try something, a skill you haven't tried yet. Don't worry about making a mistake. Learn from it. I said, because if you just try not to make mistakes, or just it's not enjoyable, it's stressful. Like who pays? Why are you here if you just want to be stressed for 2 hours? Like, oh, I hope I don't make a mistake. That's not fun. So the same with sport. I'm like, if you hate it, like if we've killed the passion, but you think you need to do it, I said, you're not going to last because it's just not fun. Why am I missing my friend's birthday party? To be here to get yelled at for something I don't like to do. So any way we can keep the kids engaged is like the most important thing. Canada, like for soccer, hockey, obviously we're dominant. Curling, we're dominant. But in soccer, we have such tremendous athletes in Canada. Like it's unreal our level of athleticism we have, and how for so long how dormant we were in soccer. And now we're starting to see some benefits of with our professional league starting, but we're starting to see the change in how we look at pro soccer, and we're seeing it. Canada's climbing the rankings. We have an important Gold Cup match today, and we're the men's national team, and they're expected to win. Like we're heavy favorites. So trying to unleash this, like any sport in Canada, we're lucky. Like we have no reason not to be dominant in anything we try. But we have to find ways of keeping our top athletes engaged, keeping them passionate, and trying to put perspective in it, right? Like not trying to think of these travel tournaments all the time where you just go in, play 20 games, get a medal, think you're the best, these sort of things.
Yeah, well, we've had you now for a little while, Thomas. We should let you get back to I'm sure you got training to run too. That's your life. I wanna leave you with one. You got to finish this in one sentence. The biggest challenge with youth soccer today is
Biggest challenge with youth soccer today
Put you on the spot.
is, I would say, the biggest challenge to youth soccer today would be money barriers,
Hmm.
cost of pay to play, biggest issue
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a
Wow.
common
Thomas.
one among sports, I think.
yeah
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating what you said, right? The higher you go, the higher level within your cohort, the more you pay. It's all that we
yeah
could, Thomas, I think you've been a fantastic guest. I think people have really gathered a lot from you. We could have you back to have a show about each of the topics we hit today. And we didn't even get to many of them. I have such a long list. I'm sure Emma does too. So,
Yeah. Well,
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. It was a great chat. I'm always
mm,
excited to talk to
mm,
anybody who's listening, other than my
mm.
wife, who doesn't want to hear me talk about coaching anymore.
Yeah,
So I'm always excited to chat.
it's great.
great. Thanks
Yeah.
so much, Thomas.